Good evening. I have 6:30. I'll call to order this meeting of the Columbus Common Council, regular meeting for Tuesday, October 3rd, 2017. Pat, whenever you're ready, could you please take the roll?
Hendrickson is excused. Kenny?
Here.
Malat excused. Reed?
Here.
Excuse me. Rule?
Here.
Traxler?
Here.
Tome?
Here. Thank you. If able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting has been noticed in accordance with state statutes and all local ordinances. The next item is to approve the agenda. Unless anyone has any alterations or deletions, I did have one suggestion, and that would be to consider breaking agenda item number 8 into A and B, since it's two separate questions. I'll take a motion to approve the agenda with that change. If
So moved.
Second.
motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented, with the exception of number 8, which would be split into question A and B. Any questions on that? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda's approved. Thank you. We have correspondence and communication. Tonight we have Edie Olinsky signed up for G&B Holdings, and she said that she'd be willing to speak if there's questions when we get to that agenda item. But we also have Paula Steiner from 442 James Street signed up, so you can approach the podium, Paula.
Paula Steiner from 442 West James Street. I'm here on behalf of some of the residents in the area. We have questions. The first one is the sod. Sod was put down on our side of the road, and after the increase in the heat, it dried out. I did see a truck come through with a very big water gun, and I'm going to use that term very loosely, and water, but I'm just wondering what is the intended maintenance of the sod, because that's an investment, and right now it looks really bad. Okay, and then the other thing is in regards to snow removal. I know I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but the terrace is a little bit narrower on James Street, and there is concerns that when the plows come through, that all the snow from the street will end up leaking back into the sidewalk, and I'm wondering if there's any contingencies on making sure that that doesn't happen. And then the last thing, last year we were told verbally that there was going to be some form of a tree allowance for the trees that were removed. We have not heard anything in written form or communication that I've seen or any of my neighbors have seen, and we're wondering what is the timeline, what requirements will need to be met, things like that. That's it.
All right, thank you for coming in and asking those questions. I know some of those can be easily answered by City Administrator Vandersanden. We're not going to have a back and forth debate about it, but these are all issues that have been discussed to a certain degree. So feel free to get a hold of Patrick, and he can probably help explain some of those and convey them to the DOT. All right?
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
You know my email.
All right, on to the consent agenda then. We have 8 items this evening. Number 1 is the council minutes from September 19th, Cable Commission meeting minutes from August 21st. We have Hillside Cemetery minutes from June 13th, HLPC minutes from July 12th, August 9th, and September 13th. Library Board meeting minutes from August 15th. Plan Commission resubmitted minutes from June 15th and also from August 24th. And we also have a picnic license for the Columbia Area Chamber of Commerce Small Business Saturday Wine Walk on November 25th, 2017. And number 8 is the proclamation for Celebrate Your Library Day. Any questions on any of those, or any will to separate any of those out of the consent agenda? No. All right, seeing none. Take a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda is approved. There's no unfinished business, so we move on to new business. Number one is the approval of the mayoral appointment to the Water and Lake Commission, which is Greg Robbins. He'll just be continuing another 5-year term. I spoke to him earlier this year, and he wishes to continue. So unless there's any questions on that, take a motion to approve that appointment.
Motion to approve the appointment of Greg Robbins to the Water and Lake Commission.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the mayoral appointment of Greg Robbins to the Water and Lake Commission. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. On to number two, Resolution 18-17, celebrating Public Power Week. This is something that we've done traditionally on an annual basis since I've been here. To help celebrate the fact that we do have public utilities in Columbus, which I think is a great thing. Unless anyone has any questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve Resolution 18-17.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the Resolution 18-17, which celebrates Public Power Week. Any questions on that? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. On to number three then, consider and take action on the application for a Class B license for G&B Holdings. This is an item that went through the Committee of the Whole meeting, which I was not present at. I did watch the meeting and had a couple questions that kind of came to light. I know there were many questions that came at the Committee of the Whole, and kind of leads me to a few questions or concerns, I guess, because of what had happened this year in the renewal process and kind of the matrix, I guess, of information that the council wanted to look at to have consistent renewals of these types of applications. The one thing that I did notice that wasn't in the last packet was the actual application itself, which is at your desk this evening, which brings number 8 or number 9 on that application would be the premises description, which is listed here as ground floor. And we did have a recent application for the painted crate, which there was a map provided, and we were able to ask questions. So I wanted to make sure that we had the actual application in here in case there's any questions on that. Matt, did you have?
Yeah, Mike, you kind of took the words out of my mouth. I did have a question for Paul. If it's defined as ground floor, I believe that premises does have the outdoor as well, seating area. I guess, is this changing what they previously had for their license, or would this narrow that in to just the inside ground floor? I know that all the conversation we had during the whole process initially was really trying to hard define these locations, because once it's the cat's out of the bag, it's out of the bag, so.
Yeah, I'm not aware of what the prior license was for. In my mind, when you say ground floor, that is ground floor of the internal, inside the 4 walls of the building. If you want further clarification, now would be the time to do that, because the applicant still has the ability to amend the request tonight.
Trina, did you have a question?
Just wondering if we're
Turn your microphone on, please. Thank you.
just a quick question. Wondering if we're looking to actually offer the license or just hold the license until they've met the requirements that were listed. There were a couple concerns.
That's, part of this conversation. I agree as well. There's a couple of unpaid liquor bills, and I didn't hear a question or an answer definitively at the last meeting about, I don't believe we can grant the license with contingencies. And if those conditions still exist, can we grant that license?
At the last meeting, well, here, let me back up. The unpaid liquor bills, I don't think that is going to apply here, because the unpaid liquor bills are for the prior owner.
Okay.
And the statute refers to the indebtedness for the applicant, and the applicant in this particular situation doesn't have any indebtedness. So I know that I believe those bills are still outstanding, but I believe those are VFW bills, and those are not. We can't take that on to the current applicant in that situation. As far as the other issue, we had a discussion about the seller's permit as to whether or not that was going to be issued, and the license can be issued, can be granted by the council and issued upon satisfaction of the contingencies.
Thank you.
If you choose to do that.
Thank you for the clarification on that, Paul. Kenny, or Alder Kenny?
Yeah, so I guess just to kind of clarify, so in our matrix, in our sheet here, when it does say that there's a check under the outstanding liquor invoices, that's kind of a gray area. There are outstanding liquor licenses, or, I'm sorry, liquor invoices, but G and B being the requester of this license is not the one who has outstanding bills, so we cannot take that into consideration on this.
That
Or
would
we
be my-
can,
That'd be my opinion, yes.
cannot take it. It's two
Right.
separate entities, completely separate out.
Right.
Okay.
I think there's a difference between renewal, which is your opportunity to clean that up if you
Right.
wish, and this is a new application for a license.
Okay.
Correct?
Right, if the VFW was applying for the license, for a new license at a different location, or for a renewal of their existing license, that would be a different situation, because then that would be completely relevant. But this is a new operator, asking for a new license, and the baggage from the past, operator of the space doesn't come into play.
Reagan?
The building inspection would still apply though, correct?
Correct.
Yes. Thank you.
Anything else? So with that, I guess, I don't know if Edie wanted to say anything. My only concern, okay, my concern with the application and having that description is something that I think came up before. And if we could be more comfortable in saying interior ground floor, we're good to go. And then when that license transfers from GNB to whomever, then you kind of kick off that whole start over point as far as an inspection and issue, compliance issue with any code-related items that would fall onto the person that's purchasing the property and applying for the new license. Edie?
As far as, we do plan to make those corrections, before sale. But at this point, because this is a little bit of a difficult situation until the sheriff's sale, it's not completely our property. That's where we're at, and that's why those have not taken place yet. It is our intention to correct those. I don't want you to think any differently. We have no intention of opening the doors until we can find a buyer. That buyer then would have to apply for a license again, and that buyer, if they want to use that courtyard, it would be their decision to make and their request with the city council. I was just basically defining where the bar area was, because there is a whole second floor that actually is living quarters, and that has no serving capabilities.
Yeah. And I completely agree with you. Would you be okay with amending this to say interior ground floor?
I am very comfortable with that.
I think that satisfies some of our issues anyway. Does that verbal acknowledgement between us and Edie have any standing, or?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
When the application when the license is issued, that change can be made.
Okay,
And just as a reminder, I mean, this is a situation where Edie was very upfront at the last meeting with her intent to not open the doors, probably ever. And that led to the conversation about whether or not she needed a seller's permit before she could have the license granted or issued to her. And I believe we came to the conclusion that that answer is no. She does not need the seller's permit until she's gonna actually sell something, which, if she doesn't open the doors, will be really difficult to do,
yes.
so. And I think the building inspection part probably falls under that same umbrella.
Correct, yep. My main concern was that this property description issue was that if we granted that, then the next person may say, that's what the license description was, and we want the same thing. And this is our only opportunity to kind of claw back and start that process over again to make sure that.
I would think that that's between the buyer and the council, and certainly would not, I was not going to try to extend to an area that since I'm keeping the doors locked, I can't extend to an area that's outside those doors.
Sure, yep. Alder Kenny?
Just to clarify, you said that the sheriff's sale hasn't happened yet, so GMB is not currently in possession of the property officially? I guess
When
you
you're in a
kind of-
foreclosure position, you always have your lien position, but the foreclosure has been granted, but the sheriff's sale is scheduled for November.
So it would be, so to remedy any of the building inspection issues, it would be at least November before GMB acquires it and then takes steps to do any sort of interior work.
Right.
And then to try to turn around and try to sell it, because obviously you guys aren't going to put it up for, or GMB is going to put it up for any sort of sale until everything's taken care of, or in the process concurrently.
We have to bring it concurrent, I mean, in that process, but before it can be sold, we have to correct certain, those, the exit light issue is a non-negotiable license. There's apparently an extension cord in the ceiling, that's a non-negotiable issue, those have to be corrected.
Minor corrections, but still corrections that need to be made.
They're safety issues.
Yeah.
And we're cognizant of what they are and how significant they are in that sense.
We're going to be going through this entire process
Yeah.
again if that property sells at that point. So it's not that we're acknowledging or approving any of those contingencies.
It is my intention to have those corrected before the sale goes through, before that person comes before the council. They should be able to have a clean inspection before
Sure.
before you have to peruse the information.
It's a code requirement, so it's not, you know, that's what's going to happen if someone purchases it and applies for a license. So I'm just, my main concern would be the property description at this point, if anybody has cold feet on this. But I think if we can make sure that's interior ground floor, that clears up any potential issues in the future, so. Anything else? Paul, are we okay just approving the license with the amendment to include interior ground floor on the application? Does that keep us covered, or do we need to add anything else to the motion after last meeting's discussion?
Well, if you want to be nice and clear and tight, you would grant the license tonight with the one minor amendment to the definition of premises, and you would then provide that it not be issued until the seller's permit and the building code issues have been addressed. That way, it's theirs, and all that they'll need to do is come in and fix those two things and pay for it.
But I would assume I'd pay for it immediately?
Yes.
Okay, because
Reagan, did you capture that verbiage?
Close enough.
All right. Unless there's any other questions or comments on this, I'll entertain a motion to approve accordingly.
We make a motion to approve the license with an amendment to the premises stating that it would be the interior ground floor. Also, this could be issued once the building inspection issues have been satisfactorily resolved. Sufficient?
And a seller's permit issued, granted. And the applicant providing a seller's permit.
And the applicant providing a seller's permit. Thank you, Attorney Johnson.
Second.
Got a first and a second to approve the Class B license for GNB Holdings with the appropriate language cited in the motion. Any further discussion on that? Okay, let's take a roll call on that then.
Kenny,
Yeah.
Reed,
Aye.
Rule,
Aye.
Traxler.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Edie.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on then to number 4, consider and take action request by the Columbus Softball Association on construction of dugouts for Diamond Number 2, and the addition of a scoreboard for Diamond 2, and the erection of a flagpole at Diamond 1 at Meister Park. I did watch the last committee of the whole meeting and the discussion, and it seemed like it was kind of a no-brainer at this point. So
I'd agree with that.
many thanks to the CSA and Jim Rake for the efforts, and appreciate the donations and the improvements at our parks. So thank you very much. Unless there's any questions for Jim, I'll take a motion to approve this.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve Request by the Columbus Softball Association on the construction of dugouts for Diamond 2, addition of a scoreboard on Diamond 2, and a flagpole on Diamond 1 at Meister Park. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. Thanks again.
Thank you.
On to number 5, consider and take action on amendment number 1 to the city school facilities agreement. I think we've discussed this at length at the committee of the whole for several months, and I believe this has been bounced off the school administration, and they're happy with the language as it exists right now. And it seemed like at the last committee of the whole meeting, we're prepared to approve this amendment to the agreement. Any discussion on this?
Not from my end. I thank Patrick for all his work on this, and yeah, I'm prepared to move forward with the vote.
Anybody else? I'll take a motion to approve the amendment to the school facilities use agreement then.
Motion to approve the amendment to the school district and City of Columbus facilities use agreement.
Second.
All right, motion and a second to approve amendment number 1 to the city school facilities use agreement. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Number 6, consider and take action on task order 2017-17, which is 2018 Columbus Street reconstruction. Jason Linda is here for any questions on this. Hi, Jason.
Good evening. So the task order before you tonight, I guess just reflects the conversations we've previously had about the construction for 2018. A couple things just to point out in here. You will see that we do have a geotechnical consultant do some soil borings to help us with the design of the roadway. We also have included in here time to cover assessments. Again, that was based off of kind of our initial layout of some things that we assumed that were going to be in here. We also have 3 public informational meetings planned. Back on page 5, there's a schedule. We would propose to have one meeting initially, shortly after the approval of this, just to kind of introduce the project to the neighborhood and the residents impacted. We would plan that about middle of October. We wouldn't have a lot of information at that point, but we can kind of lay out the process and get people familiar with, you know, the type of construction, what the schedule would be, things like that. I would then anticipate on having a second meeting in November, probably later on in the month, and then one right around the first of the year. So, holidays are a little tricky, but I kind of tried to stay right after the holidays in both cases to try and bring the project along in stages. Shortly after the last public informational meeting, we would be obviously advertising for bid. So we'd be looking to have basically a meeting a month. And I think that would help with questions as the project moves along. So this task order is obviously our basic task order. This does only go through bidding, which we had talked about last time. So again, there's permitting, design, the meetings, the special assessment piece are all included in here. If you look at the spreadsheet, you might have had one question about, on the second page, there's a breakout at the bottom. There's the cost for this task order listed, and then there's one for Columbus Water and Light share. Because of their funding that goes through the Water and Light, they always request a separate task order. If you remember last year's project, we had that as well. We prorated that based off of the cost of the anticipated construction. So what we did was we took the water-related cost for construction over the total cost and used the prorated percentage, and then took the design fee and also prorated that back amongst the 2 contracts and broke that out. So they'll have kind of a sister task order to this one associated with the design task that'll be going before the Water and Light Commission. So that's what that is, if you were curious. Any other questions about the breakout or the scope that was included?
On the breakout issue, I guess, if the Columbus Water and Light utilities being broken out for that task order, is the same going to be done for the sewer utility portions, or is that kind of lumped together all as city right now?
Well, typically we would just include that because it's not a separate approval process historically, but certainly I think Kim, didn't we do that last year? Didn't we break out a percentage? And as the billings came in, we had a percentage that was applied to the city side, so then it was broke out of that. So,
Okay.
I mean, it can be done, we just didn't break it out here just because it kind of all lies under you guys as the city council for this approval.
We can do it in-house, so to speak?
Absolutely.
All right, okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any questions for Jason? If there are none, then I will take a motion to approve task order 2017-17.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve task order 2017-17. It's a task order for 2018 Columbus Street reconstruction with Rupert Milkie. Any questions on that? I'll ask for a roll call on that, Pat, please.
Kenny?
Aye.
Reed?
Aye.
Rule?
Aye.
Traxler? Aye. Unanimous.
Thank you. Number 7, consider and take action on a request to Drexel to waive requirements for curb and gutter and asphalt on their property. I tried my best to follow along with the last meeting. It was a lengthy one, so I'm not exactly sure how this landed. I heard a few things that were said at that meeting. Patrick, if you went on to kind of summarize the issue.
Sure. Prior to the committee of the whole at the last meeting, Drexel came forward with a request to waive requirements for construction of their project for installing curb and gutter and pavement, asphalt pavement on their project. And there was, I think, good discussion. We went through it fairly thoroughly, and the decision was to not accept that request. To memorialize it, Attorney Johnson suggested we needed to have a formal vote here. I did speak with officials at Drexel, and they're fully accepting of the council's feelings there. They just had an extra thought and request with that, in that they're happy and will follow the ordinance, just wondering if they could time it so it's after the construction of Hall Road. I think they said it makes sense with their building and adjustments that they have to make. So what I was going to suggest is we put in some kind of a timeline or a time frame after Hall Road that they follow up and comply with the code.
Seems to make sense. Kenny?
I had one question. Jason, in their next letter dated September 26th of this year, they make a mention again of this ATC power line easement that could potentially change locations. At our last meeting, you kind of indicated that you hadn't heard hide nor hair of this, and was kind of curious as to where this is coming from. Is there an update, I guess, kind of in general as what that's all about?
Well, their property is straddled by ATC's high transmission line. I think I don't even remember what the exact width of the easement is through there, but it's fairly significantly wide. And so they've had to get approval for their site plan from ATC to get their permit approved. We require that whenever we're working in and around that high transmission line. And they've provided confirmation from ATC that with their site plan that they've submitted, that's currently being reviewed right now, that ATC has signed off on it. They've approved of the site design. Now, with that being said, that site design is showing the gravel parking underneath the power line. And I think the question here is that the entire parking lot was not planned to be gravel. It was just kind of the east side of the site. And so I think with that, it would just be a matter, I think, of going back and having them tell ATC they'd be paving it, but I would see no objection why ATC would object between gravel and pavement. They're more concerned about discontinuing the connectivity of their easement and or changing the elevations, which in this case would be insignificant in my opinion. So I don't know that would really be an outstanding issue. That, although I think to dot the I's and cross the T's, we would like to see ATC basically acknowledge, yes, that's fine, but I think they're pretty close right now. I don't think that would be an issue for them.
That was the issue, was obviously if you're paving the extra couple inches of elevations, right. Nothing major that we should be concerned about.
I want, ATC certainly is concerned with elevation changes underneath their transmission lines. Now, I don't work for ATC, but I understand that if you're increasing the distance between the lines and the ground, they're perfectly fine with that as long as you're not operating in proximity to their poles. If you're lessening that distance, they're concerned about it. But in this particular case, they've already filled some of that area underneath the transmission line with their grading plan to create their parking lot. So I would assume these extra couple inches probably would be acceptable. They've already got requirements not to locate any landscaping or light poles or anything like that, any taller structures underneath those lines. And so, like I say, I would anticipate ATC to be fine with that, but certainly we would ask for that confirmation.
Any other questions?
I guess I would wonder what a reasonable timeline would be for them to complete after Hall Road. I mean, are we trying to think like 90 days, something like that, or?
Yeah, I don't have any technical or scientific suggestions here. I'd turn to Jason maybe.
Well, obviously they started construction on the site right now. I mean, they're starting to strip some topsoil, move some dirt out there. They don't have their full building permits in place yet because there's still some outstanding items, much like this, that we're trying to work through to get the final approval. I would anticipate they will get the site graded this fall. They'll probably maybe even get the stone placed down. What they'll do is hold off on the paving and the curb and gutter probably till next year. Assuming that we get Hall Road, let's just say the schedule goes as planned and we start building in April or May, weather pending. You know, we have a few months to finish that, 2-3 months, well, maybe a couple months depending on the, you know, the timeline. But by then their site should be ready except for the paving and curbing. So I would assume that I would make that, my recommendation would be to make their timeline fairly short afterwards, just because they should be done with their site, ready to do their parking lot. By the time we're done with the road, they should be waiting on us. So I would probably, considering they can probably schedule a concrete in a week or so, you know, knowing that we're going to be finishing up, I would definitely say that, you know, I would probably give them, you know, 30 to 45 days probably to try and keep it kind of tight after we're done. And I guess I would also try and define what defines when Hall Road is done. Because, you know, we could be still repairing some landscaping or something yet next summer, and, you know, Drexel can say, well, you guys are still working out there. You know, so I'm a little cautious on putting that as your hinge point. Maybe it makes sense to just give them a date, just a hard date. By then we should either be near done with Hall Road or done with it. If we would say, let's see, April, May, June, say at July 1 or something, we would, you know, theoretically be done with Hall Road. So we'd give them till August 1 or something like that. I think that would probably be my recommendation. Now, again, I think that's obviously subject to change, but at least I think that's a good starting point. What I would recommend, rather than having it dependent upon some unknown right now.
Thank you.
I mean, I guess if we're not granting the waiver, things should still go kind of normal. I mean, in your communication back and forth as they develop the road and they do their buildings, and if there's a significant issue, I mean, they wouldn't get occupancy if they didn't complete what they needed to open their business. Is that correct?
Well, I think that's really the question here, is why they would ask, that's why they're asking for it, because I would assume they're gonna want occupancy probably prior to that date of the final paving. You know, historically, we wouldn't do that, where we'd give occupancy till a project is final complete. But again, I think that's probably what they're aiming at here. Without talking to them, I'm not sure, but you know, by long before then, I'm assuming they would be ready for at least occupancy. So
There's still your discretion and communication and a letter of credit and everything else.
yeah,
that goes
exactly.
with
So there's a lot of things here. You're right. So if you, obviously by not granting the waiver, things will continue as planned. It would just fall back into the city process of applying for the building permit, us granting it with that condition. That could come through the building inspector, and then that could be monitored as we go. And then I think at such time where they're asking for occupancy, say that would be March 1 or something, we'd have a lot better idea of timelines, and, you know, we'd know when we're starting construction, and we'd be much closer to knowing those answers. So I think we could monitor that a little closer and know. If you'd want to set a hard date on it now, you know, that would be something we could do, but, you know, knowing that that's subject to change, of course, with weather conditions and construction progress on both projects. So
Yeah, I agree. Trina, did you have a comment?
Oh, I was just wondering if timing matters that much to us as long as they have everything complete before they open for occupancy? I don't know.
Matt?
Jason, I think the intent with your hypothetical designs for Hall Road was asphalt, whether it was an urban section or a rural section, correct?
Yes.
Right now, probably. So maybe it would be contingent upon, August 1st date from Jason's kind of rough idea, or completion of all Hall Road paving 30 days after, whichever one's first. Kind of set a hard date, or if for some reason they knock it out quick, because once Hall Road's done, they should be able to go from there and take off. I guess leave it as kind of a hard date on the back end, but flexible with completion of the paving of Hall Road if whomever gets it done quickly. I guess the intent is to get them paved and get moved on, because I think Andy did bring up a good point about having a large gravel parking lot with trucks running on it and stuff, so.
I think it's defining what Paul had mentioned, is when is Hall Road complete?
Yeah.
Is it substantial completion? Is it when there's a punch list created?
Yeah.
We don't know that, so I think we kind of have to have some faith that we've got enough things in place right now to protect. Our intent is we want to be flexible, but only to a certain point, not 6 months.
Yeah.
But we don't know that
Well, if
date.
we don't set a hard date, I think Matt's suggestion actually is a pretty good one, is to have the paving date of Hall Road be the start of their timeline.
Sure.
Because then we don't have to be substantially complete. We don't have to define that we're done. We can just say, if we're putting asphalt down, you need to get your curb in and put your asphalt down. And I think that's reasonable, because then they have something to match into, so.
Sure. And what time? What's the timeline?
I mean, because if whether we're an urban or a rural section for Hall Road, if it's the urban section, our curb and gutter would be down and would be defined. If it's a rural section with the shoulders, then it's all just defined on when we actually pave. So I think it would be 30 days after completion of paving of Hall Road, or August 1st, whichever one is sooner. Because then, if for some reason, if ABC kind of comes in and just really plows through Hall Road and it's July, we don't want to have the option of sitting there for forever. So I think kind of a combination of both a soft work date and then a hard date on the back end, and whichever one is driven by the actual construction aspect.
Makes sense to me. And I don't know that that needs to be part of the motion necessarily, does it? I mean, we're kind of giving a directive to Jason here, but the agenda item is whether or not we're going to grant a waiver. Or do you suggest we get some language in that, Paul?
I think it would be advisable to have some language. You're going to, you're not granting the waiver, but you are granting them some consideration, some leniency from the terms of the ordinance. So it'd be good to spell it out as best as you feel you should.
Anybody have any ideas for language on that?
I think what Matt said was just about right.
Do you remember what you said, Matt?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think about.
Hold the tape.
And if we want that hard date on the end, on the
Yeah.
back end, we should probably decide that too. But I think it seems like a prudent
'Cause-
approach.
Because I think that the intent of us was to not waive the ordinance in regards to paving and curb and gutter. So I think it would be motion to, let's see here, to not waive Drexel's request for curb and gutter and asphalt paving variance. And then to set a August 1st or 30 days after completion of Hall Road paving date for the paving of their parking lot, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm trying to make sure, because it's two kind of simultaneously moving bodies here. Do you feel like we captured everything, Paul?
Well, right, I mean, basically, you're granting the request of Drexel to allow them to defer curb, gutter, and asphalt installation until 30 days following completion of asphalt to Hall Road, or August 1, whichever comes first.
So it'd be us actually granting the waiver, but only for the short period of time, not a
No.
full.
And Denial of
You're
waiver.
not,
saying.
yeah, I don't think you need to address the waiver issue at all, because you took care of that last time. Basically, you're extending their time to comply is what
Okay.
you're doing now.
Okay.
That's the way I look at it anyway. You're giving them a deferment or an extension of time, or however you want to phrase that,
So-
to comply.
At this point, you don't think we need to memorialize the denial of waiver?
No, that was done, wasn't that done at the last? No, that was.
I kind of thought that's what.
That's-
brought
that's
this
his
issue
action
to
right
us.
now.
That's right, okay, you're right.
That's the two
So,
birds and the one bush thing.
Part A and Part B.
There we go.
I think we get back to,
Deny the request for the waiver, that's Part A. And Part B is grant an extension of time to comply with the ordinance until the completion of, or 30 days following completion of the paving of Hall Road or August 1, whichever comes first.
And we could probably do that two different ways. I mean, we could make a motion to deny the waiver and then amend that motion with what we're agreeing to, or you could do two separate motions, whatever's more.
Two separate motions would be a lot easier to
Okay.
keep track of, I think.
Okay, so let's first.
I forgot that we hadn't
I
done
think
that
I have
already.
motion withdrawn just to be clear on the.
Okay, let's first take action on the agenda item, which is a request by Drexel to waive requirement for curb and gutter and asphalt on their property.
Motion to deny waiver?
Second.
A motion and a second to deny the waiver for curb and gutter and asphalt on the property of the Drexel Development. Any further discussion on that? Andy?
Is that Part B, was my question.
Okay, we're still on Part A.
Yep.
Okay, unless there's nothing further, voice vote's okay on that? All those in favor of denying the waiver, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes, I guess, yeah. Waiver is denied. Okay, and then on to Part B, which would be that we are extending the requirement for curb, gutter, and asphalt for 30 days after the completion of Hall Road pavement, or August 1st, whichever comes first. Is that appropriate?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Motion and a second to offer an extension for the required curb, gutter, and asphalt on the Drexel property 30 days after paving is completed on Hall Road, or August 1st, whichever comes first. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead, Andy.
My only comment was, Jason said July 1st, and we've all been saying August 1st, so I didn't know where the,
That was kind of his
didn't
assumed
know if we were
deadline for Hall
certain
Road.
on-
For Hall Road.
30 days gets you August.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
all right, got it. Thank you.
All right, unless there's any further questions, I will ask if
Question.
you're, oh, go ahead, Matt.
Just to verify, Paul, and obviously at any time, if for some reason we get just pounded full of rain all spring long and everything gets switched back, we can come back in and make an appropriate variation of this and
I was.
just to make sure Drexel doesn't think that we're gonna hold them.
After
hard to
you,
this.
after you adopted the motion, I was gonna remind you that, yes, you can do exactly that. Keep this in the back of your head for timeline purposes. I'm sure Jason will keep it in the front of his head as well. And if you need to amend it later on, that's not a problem.
Okay,
We're
great.
always allowed to be reasonable.
All right, unless there's any further questions, then we do have a motion and a second, correct? Yes. Okay, all those in favor of granting that extension, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, now we can move on to 8A and B. Number A, or Part A would be consider and take action on adding a step to the terrace on East James Street. There's been a lot of discussion about this. I see there's a lot of pink paint down on those sections right now, so if we do want to save those, we're going to have to do a little cleanup work. I just wanted to separate these two issues so we can kind of have a chicken and an egg at this point, and that we're not dealing with both of them at the same time. If there's any further questions about the terrace issue right now? If none, I would take a motion to approve the addition of the step to East Terrace, or to the terrace on East James Street by the DOT.
Motion to approve the step to the East James Street Terrace by DOT.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the addition of the step. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That part of the agenda item is approved. Then on to Part B, which is the potential for a railing along the new step. I know there's been discussions and some discussion about this, but it certainly seems like at this point, it wouldn't be a part of what the DOT is here to accomplish, and we've got to look at cost, design, and all that stuff that goes along with it. So that's a discussion that needs to continue with us on the committee of the whole. So unless there's any further questions or comments on that, let's have someone make a motion to approve the potential for a railing along the new step on East James Terrace.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the discussion or potential for a railing along the new step on East James Terrace. Any further discussion? If none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. On to number 9. Consider and take action on the James Street Business Signage Plan. Let's see here. I think this is supposed to kind of imitate what we had done in the downtown area for some directional information for businesses that are asking for it on the other end of the James Street project. I don't know how much discussion there was at the committee of the whole, Patrick, or if you wanted to add anything to that.
No, just, I was setting up just some of the issues on the west side and bringing up some things that we can do to help the businesses on the west side in the same spirit of those that were on the east side. So there wasn't any objection at the meeting, committee of the whole last time.
All right, is there an expense, or do we already have the signs, or haven't seen
We're,
anything?
We are working on that. We have provided the top signs,
Okay.
but the businesses themselves put the signs underneath.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on this? If none, I will entertain a motion to approve the addition of the James Street Business Signage Plan.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the James Street Business Signage Plan. Any further discussion? If none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, number 10, consider and take action on applications for operator licenses. My understanding is there is only one application, and that is for Amanda Roberts. Any questions on the applicant? If none, I'll entertain a motion to approve that operator's license for Amanda Roberts.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the operator's license for Amanda Roberts. If there's no questions, I would ask all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The operator's license is approved. On to number 11, consider and take action on claims in the amount of $519,054.62. Are there any questions on the claims? If there are no questions on the claims, I'll take a motion to approve them.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve city claims in the amount of $519,054.62. Any discussion on that? We'll take a roll call on that then.
Kenny?
Aye.
Reed?
Aye.
Rule?
Aye.
Traxler? Unanimous.
Thank you. On to number 12 then, report of city officers. I'll turn it over to you, Patrick.
Thank you, Mayor. Next week is the beginning of the automated cart distribution. Just a note, there's not a specific plan that the county has shared as to how they'll start it. It's going to take a while for them to get the carts to everyone. What they've said is when you get the carts, start using them. There should have been some information in the water and light bills further about the process and the transition, but still, if there are questions out there, I encourage them to get a hold of me, contact City Hall, Columbia County Solid Waste. It's going to take a little while for everyone to get used to things. The interview process for the city clerk is ongoing. We've interviewed a first round, and things seem to be going well. We're going to continue to push forward on that, and the beginning of the review of applicants for the Director of Planning and Development has begun as well. No interviews set yet, but I'm looking at the applications that have come in. I believe we got 9 of those, so and looking pretty good in my opinion. I wanted to just note and congratulate Jenny Schultz from Department of Public Works for hitting 20 years with the city last week. So wonderful accomplishment for Jenny, who's a very dedicated employee. And finally, just wanted to note Coffee with a Cop is tomorrow at Family Restaurant, Columbus Family Restaurant from 7 to 9 a.m. Mayor.
All right, thanks, Patrick. I only had a few things. One of them is a reminder that the leaf pickup was going to start the weeks of October 9th through the November 17th. There's maps available as far as when they'll be picking them up in your neighborhood. If you haven't received one of those already, they're available on the city website or at Public Works Office, City Hall, Senior Center, and at the Columbus True Value. And also the brush pickup ends the week of October 2nd. So just a note there. Also, before our council meeting started tonight, there was a little party out on the street in front of City Hall put on by the library to celebrate the fact that they've been nominated as one of the best libraries in the nation for 2017, a great achievement for our library, and was invited there to recite proclamation. And overall, I think it was a nice little party and well attended, so congratulations to Cindy and the staff and all the volunteers at the library that make it such a great place. That's all I had. Did anyone else want to add anything up here? All right.
Just one quick thing, Mayor. I just thought of congratulations and good job to the fire department for their annual pancake breakfast, too.
Yes.
That's
yes.
a well-run machine. So.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Thank you. Unless there's anything else, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll stand adjourned for about 5 minutes and return for the committee of the whole meeting. Thank you.